Hey there, I'm Lee Rowley, and this is Lee After Dark. Why? Because there's more to being a business leader than just business. Each episode, one brave entrepreneur ejects the elevator pitch and just gets real. Today, I'd like to welcome Deb Helfrich. Deb, how are you today?
I am doing incredible. I'm excited in 2021. I think we all have realized that life is an entirely new ball game than we'd all been planning for.
Right?
And it's really about learning how to do improv, to do yes and plus with everything that's going on in the world. So that's why I'm here to just kind of say, look, I had a midlife metamorphosis that I don't think anyone can possibly believe. And it's possible for any of us if we learn to think clearly.
Awesome. Well, we would definitely want to get into that or whatever the heck you want to talk about. The rules are simple, of course. You've got 20 minutes here to talk about whatever the heck you want, except, of course, for your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And should you succeed, then you get 5 minutes or 5 seconds or however darn long you want at the end to pitch up a storm. Tell us about your offer, tell people where people can get in contact with you, etc., etc. You ready to play?
I am.
Very good. All right, I'm going to start the timer to keep us honest. And as the question always is, what the heck do you want to get into for the next 20 minutes?
I want to get into the fact that it's a failing civilization and someone needs to furnish us with life-centric thinking.
Okay, we're getting deep. We're going deep today on Lee After Dark.
We are, because I'm a degreed philosopher. And you know, in this culture that we have, people just call themselves gurus and ninjas and da-da-da-da. And it's kind of funny. I didn't realize at first that people were like thinking I had just used philosopher as this thing. But really, I believe all of us, we know that the world is failing. We know that some of the foundations of what's going on have been rotten since the very beginning. How do we address all this? Well, we all got to think clearly. And this is about really the thinking quotient of the whole globe. Everyone's been poisoned. And nobody's business, nobody's life is going to get better if we all don't start thinking about saving life, not bank balances. So
profound statement.
Yeah, life-centric thinking, I define in a really simple way. It's about, obviously, not stuff, but life, which goes into global warming, which goes into all of the, ecosystem disarrangement that we have, where our bees are collapsing and everything, our food supply's in jeopardy, and we're all just acting like, oh, well, we need a vaccine. Let's vaccinate all of us. We've got so many problems upon problems that we really have to learn how to stop thinking insanely, just thinking about doing our jobs. And we have to think as global citizens. That's a really important point. So how do we do that? Really simple. We take this phrase that we all know, first do no harm, and we put it everywhere. We put it into our decision-making process. So if we were able to, there's this billionaire challenge where, Gates and they said, oh, you got to give away all your wealth. Well, then you've got this one person and their one agenda. What if we all started going first do no harm to any molecule of life? And we started pressuring. That should be part of corporate charters. That should, if you're a company that really is in it for a long-term sustainable, not just for instantaneous profit, let's do that. First, do no harm to any nugget of life. Here's how I see this. And we're all business people and we all need to make money and et cetera, et cetera. But if people are dying, if our customers can't afford to buy anything, which is the state of America right now, here's what we do. We come in and we think about bisphenol A being put in baby bottles. Now, this turned out to be an endocrine disruptor, which was challenging the ability of these babies getting fed to ultimately be able to have babies themselves. They were literally taking their customer base and ending it. And what I think as a philosopher who thinks really holistically, there were mothers nursing mothers in the conference rooms where everyone's like, but we're going to be able to save 5 cents a bottle, and this is going to create all this ripple of profit. Let's just use this new plastic. I know, okay, we'll keep fine, do some more research, but let's just do it. Let's test it in the marketplace. There were parents who could have stopped that happening, but the way everything's set up, in that only profit matters, and then we got to get that shareholder value, those people would have been called whistleblowers. They had to dial down, going, this is our children, this is our future. We can't just use this new plastic. If some people are saying, well, it might off gas, it might leach into the substances that are being held in it.
Right.
Somebody was saying that, and that tiny little signal got fused by all of the, well, we got to hit this 90-day earnings cycle, and think of all the money we'll make when we replace the safe plastic with this newer one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think that that's a good model for how all of us can step back our decision making. We've entered this time in our culture where I think really from the pandemic, we're now like operating on 3 to 5 second attention spans. I don't know, there used to be 6 or 7, but we are now all just notification this and popping here. Like even just a 20-minute conversation, it challenges us now.
Of course.
We're popping off emails, we're texting here, we're WhatsApp. I mean, it's gone bonkers. And maybe the younger kids can handle it, but I doubt it. Because you can't think deeply. You can't think complexly. You can't go in and say, well, I've got this idea that, life should matter. And everyone's like, can agree with that. But nobody knows how to solve any of these problems in our civilization. And what happens is people just keep saying, that'll take a long time. It'll take a long time to end racism. It will not. Why? Kids are not born racist. So it doesn't show up natively in a human being until they're taught it, until an adult says something to kids playing. So if we are now all aware of how heinous this has been and how challenging we have created this nation for anyone who doesn't look like this tiny little sliver of people up here, we are now all focused on it. Our intention is there, whether we want it to be or not. So let's stop teaching that. And then it's literally one generation. The old people die off, and then there's no humans born who, because racism is a concept anyway, the whole race, everything, it's all entirely a concept. And the reason I always bring up race is because part of what I'm doing in the world is creating a new branch of philosophy, which I call #wellbeing philosophy. And this is not a business. This is the challenging thing. We're all like, oh, well, just do these things that create. No, this is not about me personally or my small team or about putting, all of this intellectual property into this entity. No, it's about humanity. It is really about humanity. And what well-being philosophy goes and relies on is what I call, and I don't know why I'd never heard this before, evolutionary logic. Evolutionary logic is taking what we know about evolution, which we only think about, species to species. Well, everything that's alive evolves. And it's not just bodies, it's our thoughts. Our thoughts go through an evolution process.
Of course.
We used to think it was okay to drink and drive. Then it became an absolute social pariah. There are still, 2 or 3 people who will take that risk, but most of all, we as a society have said, we're not going to just let people die in cars because you've had a few too many. You can continue having as many as you want. You just put the framework around not getting behind the wheel of a car. We now can do this with all of these things that we find challenging. Here's a good question for you, Lee, because I've just been going off. Chicken or the egg? Which one came first?
Does it matter?
I think it does matter.
Okay.
I think there is an obvious correct answer.
Okay.
I think the reason that we believe that we can't answer that question is because that's how we're presented the question the very first time we ever hear it. It's so hard. Who knows, chicken or egg, which came first? And there is one correct answer, indisputable one correct answer.
Okay.
Do you want to guess?
I have a incredible track record for being wrong. So which
Okay,
one is the correct answer? Yeah, right.
And this is not about right or wrong. See, again, this is where our society is. We're either or. We are just totally like it's my way or the highway, right? Right of the chicken cross the road.
Right.
We set up the frameworks of talking, of discussing, and now it is the case that, you know, even as you know, excited and friendly as I am, there's stakes to being wrong in our society.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, you're always trying. When we were hunters and gatherers, you were playing, you were exploring, you were adapting. This is how we're only going to be able to survive as a species in a pandemic world, is everything has changed. And what's interesting is we are acting like nothing has really changed, but industries are going to start collapsing. I mean, so many have already, but it's just going to be one after the other after the other. What's going to happen to international airfare? Really, seriously, it takes so much money to keep an airline. I mean, I don't really know how they're going to survive. It's like it's going to have to become a different model. It's not going to go away altogether, but the way that we're doing it is going to have to change. So here's the deal, chicken or egg. And this is about thinking complexly. This is what philosophers do, is instead of either or, you go if, then, therefore. That adds one more layer, that next question. Ask one more question. Well, okay, I'm just gonna pick one. I'm gonna pick the chicken.
Okay.
Well, where'd the chicken come from? I mean, we're essentially, we're just repeating the question. So I'm gonna pick an egg. So where did the first chicken egg come from? We all know this, but it seems like we don't know it, but we all know it.
Okay.
The chicken egg came from a reptile. That first chicken egg came from reptiles, give birth with eggs. And what happened was, of course, a process of evolution. It wasn't just a gecko created a chicken. It was a gecko came with this thing, protuberance. And many generations. It was just this awkward thing. And then another protuberance came. And then for generations, these geckos, nothing was going on. And then here's what happened. One of them fell out of a tree and caught air. And was like, oh, that's what this can do. That's how it happened. This is the process of evolution. And I'm telling you exactly what happened. That gecko ran right back up and did it again. The pleasure principle is what I call the Western medicine measurement men, the ones who want everything to be 1 + 1 = 2. They've not found it. They don't understand that evolution likes pleasure. I mean, we all know this is how we procreate. There's an immense amount of pleasure involved. There's an immense amount of pleasure in doing good work, in finding your own right livelihood. And I call that the math of life. 1 + 1 = 2, we can have all that math stay together. But 1 + 1 = 3, the math of life is so foundational that it takes me 9 words. 1 man + 1 woman = a third baby. When you're talking about life, life adds up differently. So that's in a nutshell. That's what I love to talk about. I love to talk about giving people ways to expand their thinking. These strategies.
Okay. And you know, what do you see as, you know, tell me about, you know, what you've been able to do for other people in terms of doing that, in terms of promoting that expansive thinking.
Nothing.
Okay.
And the reason why, that's a little bit, I you know, again, I sometimes I like to talk big. I like to be in performer mode. But essentially, the internet is not prepared to give space to challenging thinking. to build the way that the internet is set up now. Let me tell you something. Social media is a Ponzi scheme. This is job number one that we have got to bring into the forefront. If you're pretty, if you're famous, if you're rich, it seems like, oh, there's just, 100,000 people who start following me. If you aren't niching, if you aren't just one thing, if you're a real person who has a life and a business and a this and a that, you end up unable to go through. And this is why I'm just looking for podcasts, looking for people to play with, because it's really not easy for somebody who is an introvert, who doesn't go around dropping emojis here, there, and everywhere, to be able to figure out what to do with this. Now, one of the things that's really important to me is not kind of really measuring the impact of this. Because it's not, what I achieve is I see it happening a lot, is a lot of my languaging on LinkedIn, as I start to come up with these phrases, math of life and life-centric thinking, and start to call racism dehumanization. When we talk about this situation, that's it. You cannot, dehumanization is wrong. You can't come up with any buts.
Right.
And it also expands to other categories. It expands to, we can't be having this complete gender. One's better and one's the second sex. We can't be judging people about who they're attracted to. We can't be judging people based on ability. Like, that one is so crucial. We've all got to earn a living. And yet, try having a chronic disease. What do we expect these people to do? You can't get into corporate America. They're like, we don't want you. Then you're supposed to make a living on the internet. I mean, so this is where I'm at, is in not being able to be in a standard traditional role and trying to figure out how to use the internet. It doesn't work. I gave it 5 years. And I basically like, okay, well, I'm going to go and figure out how to become a performer. Because what we're not seeing about all this in the app culture. So every billionaire, that's all they're doing. Their VCs are funding app. We're going to have an app-pocalypse really soon. It's going to be, Y2K was very benign. Almost nothing happened. Okay, no problem. But nobody's seeing the fact that these apps require human attention. And again, we've all now down here to this 5-second thing. Who's done the math to say, well, there's 333 million people in America, and if they're working 8 hours a day and we're all building all these apps, that's only so much attention that even exists. And then you take, you're trying to talk to 50-year-olds, or you're trying to talk to 30-year-olds. There's only so much attention, and we're going to end up all of our capital's going into that. None of our capital's going into people with solutions who really want to help humanity figure out what to do with all this chaos. There's philosophies basically went extinct, and it is the key, and also about science. So we've got this love affair with science. Show me the study and all this kind of thing. Science is not just math. Science is not just reproducibility. It's that when it starts to become something that becomes widespread, you want it to be reproducible, you want the math to add up. But science at the frontier, at the research level, is philosophy. It's in making a hypothesis to test. So now anyone, whatever they've ever thought, can go test the hypotheses that the first chicken egg came from a reptile. They can go look into that. I don't care whether anyone believes me or not. It's something you can go do the research on and see, well, that's basically the agreed upon way that this happened. It's that when we think whole chicken, boom, 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 we forget the process. And this is where we are in our world today. We're forgetting the process of fixing the civilizational chaos. And we're all just like, that'll take forever. No, I don't see it like that. We've got to all dedicate ourselves to life-centric thinking as we're making every decision as adults.
Awesome. Well, thank you very, very much. And it's a perfect landing there because we're right at the 20-minute mark. Any parting thoughts on this end of it before we switch over?
I encourage everyone to figure out what it is that lights them up like this. So I know I've kind of went off a little bit, kind of fast talking.
We love it.
But this is in everybody. Whatever, and it might be about music. It might be about, trying to figure out how to become a film director. Whatever those passions are in people, if they get into that pleasure creates evolution. It'll create evolution in your life. So take away from this the energy of it all and figure out what it is in your life that gives you that kind of energy.
Awesome. Fantastic advice. Yeah. All right. Well, being a man of my word, I want to make sure you said you weren't going to take that long, but up to 5 minutes to tell us how to contact you and, what other things you're doing, the business sides of things.
Yeah. And again, the only way I get to sort of help people think clearly is to build a platform. So right. LinkedIn is my main platform. I'm looking to really work to the people who are decision makers, who are world evolvers. So that's why I focus on LinkedIn. So that's the place you can hit me up and DM me, basically every day. Fantastic. But also check out my YouTube channel. It's under my name, Deb Helfrich, right now. I am creating videos. Nobody has time to listen to philosophy lectures, right? I'm dealing with that. So I'm literally trying to become a stand-up philosopher using the model of the comic, and it's under #Redheaded She-Hulk. So if you are interested in learning more of these, finding some more crazy ideas to help you think more clearly, #Redheaded She-Hulk at a Google or YouTube near you. And if you're interested in really the foundations of making philosophy, of just critical thinking skills, spreading those, it's #wellbeingphilosophy. That's where, the tip of my iceberg is the #Redheaded She-Hulk performer persona. But there's a real entity here, which I want to be global. I'd love to just go to Africa right now, go to the Caribbean, and start to have these kinds of discussions. Because everything that we want to happen in the world takes a human conversation. And that's where I really resonated with you, Lee, to bring it full circle. Your capacity with words is incredible. I mean, I just the very first sentence I saw, and it is such a skill to be succinct and concise and convey emotion and convey all the complexity. I mean, I admire it so, so very much. And I think we take words for granted as a society. Not a single one of us will achieve what we want if we don't use our words. Those words matter and they're powerful. And we really have to stop being all, well, oh, this is going to take forever. Oh, this is really, there's these habits that have been socialized into us. And I think one of the things I like to point out to everyone is I've not said a single sentence that you've ever heard anyone else say. And that's a very rare quality right now, on the internet especially.
Indeed it is. Yes. I'm tired of hearing Henry Ford quotes. It's just really, I don't need that motivation again, really. So, well, you've definitely been fascinating, different, and entertaining, and thank you so much for sharing your philosophies and your wisdom. We really
I've been honoredly honored. I wish you every success.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, we are out of time, but if you liked Lee After Dark more than the rest of the Drek out there, then subscribe to my Tag on YouTube channel, people. And you can find us on Anchor FM, or on Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Pocket Rocket, I don't know. Wherever you want to listen to us, just go do it and subscribe, and go follow and support Deb in her endeavors as well. All right, well, we will see you next time. Until then, be present and be well, my friends.